Hey everyone, this is Michael, and I'm going to be showing you Dread today, which is my entry for the 2022 Solitaire Print and Play contest on BoardGameGeek. Dread sets in as your enemies surround you. In Dread, you play as the hunter, but you are also the prey. The last of your kind, you must eliminate the evil that haunts the land. Always a step away from death, your execution must be perfect. So today I'm going to show you the base game. There are some expansions and some campaign that happens after this, but this is the basic training exercise, which gets you used to navigating, moving, and doing things within the world of Dread. This was going to be an entry for the 54 game contest this year, but tokens were not allowed, and I've got tokens, so it's in the print and play contest. So among those 54 cards, we have 24 action cards here in the action deck. Each one of these action cards has two sections. You've got movement, which is this boot. The stake is one of the close range weapons that does 2 damage, mainly used for vampires. The sword is also a close range weapon, does 1 damage. Should be used for ghouls most of the time, who are weaker. You've got the pistol, which is a ranged weapon, does 1. And each one of the pistols and crossbows will either go orthogonally or diagonally, as you can see here. And last but not least is the crossbow, which does 2 damage, also either orthogonally or diagonally, as you can see here. So that's the action deck. We've got another 24 cards in the spawn deck. We have ghouls, as I was alluding to earlier. These have 1 health. And we have vampires. Those are stronger, meaner, they have 2 health. And the number in the upper left-hand corner of the spawn deck indicates which section of the map it will spawn. Also, for the purpose of the training exercise, are our graveyard map cards. There are 6 of them. They get arranged in a 3x2 grid. They have a couple features on them. Walls, mainly, prohibit movement and as well as attacks. These little dug up graves are the spawn points for your enemies. And then this illuminated area here is a waypoint, which is where the player will spawn, and in the campaign mode, some of your targets and objectives will be at the waypoints. And those are all the components. We also have a pile of pile of tokens here. Some white meeples to represent ghouls, some red ones to represent vampires. I also have some dice and little discs, which I'm not going to use for this exercise, and a pawn for the player. So that's all the components. Alright, let's get into the training exercise. Before embarking on any serious quests, some training is in order. Just before dawn, go out into the graveyard and prepare to slaughter your enemies until the sun rises. Your objective is to eliminate all enemies in the spawn deck using only the 24 cards of the action deck. It is recommended to read the basic rules and complete the training exercise before reading the campaign rules. So that's why we're doing this video. So, how do we set up gameplay? First, we generate the map by shuffling the 6 map cards and laying them out in a 3x6 grid. The map cards are going to be referenced by number according to their position. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that carries for basically the spawning of the enemies. We've got 9x8 actual map spaces here, which hopefully you can see on the video. We've got our enemy spawn points. We've got our waypoints, these illuminated areas, and of course, the walls. So here's the thing about walls. You cannot attack through walls, and you cannot move through walls. You may move diagonally across the end of a wall, but you cannot move through it like that. Likewise, you cannot attack an enemy through a wall, and the enemy cannot attack you through the wall, but the enemy could attack you diagonally across that little space at the end of the wall, if that makes sense. So next we're going to shuffle up the action deck here. This is basically our energy and ammunition and everything we've got in us as the vampire hunter to complete the quest. So we'll shuffle that deck up and then deal 5 cards, and I like to keep them on the table rather than in my hand. You don't have to do this, of course. Next, we're going to shuffle up the spawn deck. and set it up here. You can either roll a die or you could cut the spawn deck to determine where you start, but let's just say we start at location 1 for the mission. That's basically the startup. Every turn we're going to spawn enemies, and then we're going to take actions, and then we're going to move enemies. So let's just go ahead and spawn enemies. I'll keep talking about the spawn enemies rules as we go, but basically we've got a ghoul on 1, a ghoul on 3, and a vampire down here on 4. Next we're going to take actions. You can either play 0, 1, or 2 cards to this discard area right here to take actions in Dread. So if you play 0 cards, if you choose to just move 1 space, that's a legitimate action. And the player can move diagonally or orthogonally. You can also just play 1 card here. That's a bad example. You could play 1 card and take those actions in order. So that would be, move, attack that ghoul for 1 damage, and he's done. Also, and probably most frequently, we're going to do 2 cards together overlapped in some way like this. There's always going to be a trade-off where one of these 4 individual actions doesn't take place. So you overlap it somehow like this. You cannot turn it upside down and take those 3 actions, and that's the main action taking mechanism of the game. So for this turn I'm going to move, do a melee attack on this ghoul, get rid of him, and then I'm going to shoot with my pistol, there's no walls in the way, this ghoul. It's a pretty productive turn. So I'm going to bring my cards back here, and next the enemies move. Ghouls move on diagonals or orthogonally towards the player. I'm sorry, vampires move diagonally and orthogonally towards the player. Ghouls only move orthogonally. So in that regard, they're a little bit slower. They each have 2 moves per turn, but the vampire on those diagonals will get there a little bit faster. So this vampire is just going to go 1, 2 and move up towards the player. Okay, now it's the next turn. We're going to spawn 3, 5, and 5. This is one of the rules about spawning. If the same number appears here twice, you only spawn once. So we get 1 ghoul on 5 and 1 ghoul on 3. And right now I don't like being at the edge of the board, so my strategy is going to be to kind of get closer to the middle. Let's see here. For now, I'm going to shoot this ghoul and move 1. Vampire is going to move towards me. This ghoul is going to go 1, 2, moving on a path up towards me. And now we spawn again. So we've got 6, 3, and 3. And then this is good timing because this is the other rule about enemy spawning. If you got 2 with the same number, one of them's a vampire, the other one's a ghoul, the vampire is going to take precedence. So we're not going to spawn a ghoul on 3, we will spawn a ghoul on 6. So, what do we do now? We've got this vampire right up in front of us. I'm going to... can't really reach those ghouls or that vampire, so I'm just going to... I'm not going to move. You can always choose not to move, but I am going to hit that vampire with the stake, so he's done. And here's why I'm not going to move. So vampire moves. This guy will start walking around the corner. This guy, how's he going to go? I guess he'll move. He's continuing to move towards me. Right now, I'm covering this spawn point. The vampire's covering that spawn point. If we get a 1 or a 2, they won't spawn because we're covering the spawn point. So that worked out really well, actually. We've got 2 1s and a 2. So no enemies spawn this turn. And Now I can keep doing things. So what am I going to do here? I think, I'm going to actually move towards the vampire. Now let's think about this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to move towards the vampire, hit him for 1, so he won't move this turn. He's stunned, he's not dead, but he won't move this turn. And then I'm going to move back here. And I'm going to try to do the same thing and prevent another spawn. So he won't move. This one will move up 2. He'll move towards me 2. Now we spawn enemies. So the ploy didn't work, but still worth a try. So we'll have a ghoul on 4, a vampire on 5. Those 2 5s cancel out. So that worked out nicely again. So now I'm going to move into here, and I'm going to finish the vampire, kill this ghoul. So that worked out okay. Next, we're going to move these enemies. Just do it like that. Get some new action cards and spawn again. Okay, 6, 4, 2, so that's heating up. All right, what am I gonna do here? I've got these diagonal pistol shots that aren't very helpful. We've got this vampire immediately in my face. I'm gonna try to change my board position. I'm gonna get rid of this guy. I'm gonna move right to here. I'm gonna get into the middle of the action. Okay, so let's move these enemies. This guy moves like that. Vampire comes right up. This is probably the shorter way around. And these guys will keep moving towards me. Now let's spawn. 4, 2, 6. Great. 4, 2, 4, and 6. All right. Oh, nice. Picked up this crossbow. So that's easy. We'll take out the vampire straight down and those 2 ghouls. Cleared away all the danger from next to me. So we'll move these guys towards me. They're just moving right in. And we're getting close to the end. Let's put a vampire here on 6, 1 on 2, 1 on 1. And now spawning's over for the training exercise, so I just have to take these guys out. Let's finally use some of these pistols. So I'll shoot this guy. Come over here and shoot this guy. Okay, they move. And they move, and they move, and they move. Okay. I gotta watch out for this. They're still closing in pretty fast, so I don't want to get too comfortable. So I'm gonna kind of waste a stake on him to get him out of the way. Come up here and get that one. So now they move. Do this, diagonal, move here, diagonal, and this is basically done now. Sure, so sword, crossbow, and move. So I won the training exercise, I passed it, and now I could move on to the campaign mode. So that's pretty much how you play Dread. Thanks for watching.